Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my most favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site for this story that'll have plot synopsis and character bios for this issue. So, Marvel Fanfare #1. We are going through the Chris Claremont centric era of X-Men, New Mutants, X-Factor, Excalibur. It's and I call it Claremont centric because it is based on his work, although he won't be writing everything we cover throughout this work. Louise Simonson will write a big portion of the stuff that he does not write. We're going to, it's still centric to the work that Claremont is doing. So we're going in reading order. I do have a playlist for X-Men. I started out with Classic X-Men #1, which reprints Giant Size X-Men #2. I actually kept going through the Classic X-Men because there's a lot of exposition that is in there that is just not in the original issues. And then once the backup story stopped, I just went straight through. I have these 4 issues we're going to cover. We're going to cover #1 today, but we're going to cover Marvel Fanfares 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I have them in both single issues and in a trade paperback. So, we're also going to have a real treat because the first 2 are drawn and colored by Michael Golden. Here we have Spider-Man being grabbed by a big pteranodon. Here's Michael Golden's signature. Here's Angel. And look at this. Look at this beautiful. Michael Golden's a huge inspiration to people like Todd McFarlane. And you're going to see a lot of McFarlaneisms. Or really they're Michael Goldenisms. But you're going to see a lot of stuff here that Todd McFarlane uses. Fast Descent into Hell, Chris Claremont and Michael Golden. Michael Golden is also the colorist. So we got kind of like a half splash here. One kind of just saying what's going to be going on. We got Sauron, Kazar, Angel, and Spider-Man here. And then in this half, we got the start of our story here. So, like I said, Michael Golden is the penciler and the inker. Chris Claremont is the writer. Michael Golden will also be the colorist. Tom Marzakowski does not do letterers. So, here we are. It begins 3,000 feet above the Continental Divide, just west of Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, on a dry, hot, midsummer morning. So, we see all these beautiful buttes here. How much further, pilot? We see a helicopter here. We're almost there, Miss Anderson, and don't you worry. If anyone can help you, Mr. Worthington can. So, we got a double page here, absolutely beautifully composed here, and I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger for you. Here we go. And so we're going to be reading from at the top here, and then the bottom. So we're going this way. All right. And so Miss Anderson says, he has to. He's my only hope. And it says here, her name is Tanya Anderson, a woman with haunted eyes. And beautiful work here. We can see this beautiful house nestled here in the middle of these buttes. We've arrived, ma'am. That's Mr. Worthington's mountaintop chalet, the best view in these parts. The man said he wanted privacy, and that's what he got. It's 20 miles to the nearest decent public road and 20 more to the nearest town. Practically, the only way in and out of this place is by air. And so here we see Candy Southern, who that pilot will tell us is Warren Worthington's girlfriend. Hold on tight, ma'am. We're picking up some turbulence. This landing may get a little rough. And so a few minutes later, Miss Southern, I'm Tanya Anderson. Call me Candy. Welcome to Warren's airy our home away from home. So, and she says, "Where is Mr. Worthington? Surely he's expecting me. Please, it's imperative that I see him." You will. As for where he is, you probably passed him on your way down. He's visiting some friends. And so here we are, the angel flying with these bald eagles. Basically, we get a little bit of his origin. Chris Claremont absolutely loves to insert as many words as possible here. So, it says here, sole heir to one of America's lesser private fortunes. So, just another way to say he's quite rich here. And of course, it says he was with the X-Men. He left a short time ago. We have covered that, as I mentioned. I do have a playlist with the X-Men here. And now he is a member of the Champions. In the X-Men, they made it sound like he left because of disagreement with Wolverine. However, I don't know how much Claremont really wanted to write Angel. And he was going to this other group called the Champions. Iceman and the Beast also followed. So, Angel sees and says, "Oh, looks like my guest arrived a wee bit ahead of schedule." And so he says goodbye to the birds and off he goes. So, now they're sitting here. And Warren says, "What can I do for you, Tanya?" And she says, "I want you to help me find Carl Lycos." And Candy says, "Who?" She says, "He was a child friend of mine, the man I loved. I first met him in Tierra del Fuego, where he saved my life. In gratitude, my father raised Carl after Carl's own father died. Suddenly, Carl put himself through medical school and became a brilliant, though unorthodox physician. But nothing he did made him worthy in my father's eye of my love." You can see here the look here. None of us knew Carl was living under a terrible curse. I've read his notes. To live, he had to drain energies from other living beings. Finally, an overdose of such energy transformed him into a monster he christened Sauron. Well, actually, monster, because the M is in there, kind of saying. He tried to kill my father. I love the coloring here. The yellow green, and then just the green here. Just, I don't know. Michael Golden is such a good colorist here. And I love this. This is so McFarlane. Michael Golden, I think, is a huge influence on all the stuff that is Image Comics here. And so we're getting exposition again about stuff that happened here. It says X-Men 60 and 61. After he tried to kill her father, she continues, they fought the X-Men, fled to his home in Tierra del Fuego. After the descent, human side of his personality won out over his evil Sauron self, where there, rather than live with his incurable curse, he decided it would be better not to live. After that, I never went home, never spoke to my father again. I joined the Peace Corps and spent 2 wonderful backpacking years working in the Andean highlands. Yet, no matter what I did or how hard I tried, I couldn't forget that Carl had become an energy vampire because of me. You see, he'd been infected by the pteranodons, which still exists in Tierra del Fuego. Tierra del Fuego, by the way, is a territory in Chile, the country of Chile, whose nest I'd unwittingly disturbed. In saving me, he'd condemned himself. If I had defied my father and stayed with Carl, I might have been able to help him. Life is full of ifs, Tanya, but, cliché as it sounds, what's done is done. You can't change the past, so why keep needlessly tormenting yourself about it? As you said yourself, Carl Lycos is dead. And she says, that's what I thought until I read this magazine article about the Savage Land. One photo in particular caught my eye. I checked with the editors. It was taken less than 6 months ago. The man standing behind Khazar, Lord of the Savage Land. And so she's picking up, You can see there her notes. Man, Michael Golden is such a good drawer. I really wish that he was faster. He just he's meticulous as well, so it's very hard, I think, for him to do monthly grind. Anyway, it's Carl Lycos. I went to the Savage Land to find him. I'd like you, Angel, to come with me, she says here. And so there's Carl kind of pointing at it. He says, you're crazy. And she says, if you agree, I'll donate $1 million to your favorite charity. And she says, my help isn't for sale, Miss Anderson. Has it occurred to you that, assuming he is alive, Lycos hasn't left the Savage Land because he hasn't wanted to leave? Perhaps he's made peace with himself. His curse, down there, he might even be happy. Why not leave him be? And she says, because I love him. Can you understand that? With or without your help, I'm going, she says. And she begins to cry. And Angel says, don't cry, Tanya, please. I think I'm going to regret this, Candy. And she says, I'll pack your bags, you big softy, you. So she weeps, and Angel's like, ugh. So look at the hatching. This is definitely an early, what's going to be an early time for Image Comics. I'm sorry, I misspoke. I didn't say it. I didn't mean to say an early time for Image Comics. This is 1981, an early influence for the future founders of Image Comics, like Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane. And Jim Lee makes this so popular that this essentially infects the entire 1990s with a lot of hatching here. And so we are now going on. It says here the next few days are busy, so time about a few days has passed. Take that as you will. 2, 3, well, 2's a couple, a few would be 3 or 4 maybe. Says they're busy, and Warren pulls some strings, cashing in some IOUs to get clearance and government assistance for the trip to Antarctica. He does his best to keep his project quiet, and for the most part, he's pretty successful with one notable exception. And so we can see J. Jonah Jameson here. Robertson, Parker, why the devil aren't you people around when you need them? First, I want to comment here on this. Not only does he use some screen tone here, a couple different things, the screen tones, and then coloring different things, but look at the backgrounds. This guy is really, really, really good. I mean, look at that. Particularly that first floor here. That is wonderful. And then over here. So here we got J. Jonah Jameson. We got Peter. And of course we got Robbie here. Aha! There you are. I want to see you both in my office now. And Peter says, our master's voice. I knew this day was too good to last, Robbie. And Robbie says, I wonder what's up. I haven't seen that gleam in his eyes since he announced that Dewey had just beaten Truman. So, and it says soon, and I love it. The secretary is kind of looking this way toward him. Are you planning an expedition to the Savage Land? I've managed to secure for the Bugle's exclusive world rights to the story. We need someone now. All we need now is someone to cover it. Say, a member of our staff who's been there. And wait a minute, Jonah, says Peter. And of course, that's Amazing Spider-Man's 103 and 104. You mean me? You're sending me back to the Savage Land? That's the idea, says Jonah. Not a chance. He says, I won't take no for an answer, Parker. And Peter says, save your breath. I almost got killed the last time I was there, remember? And Jonah says, think of the fame, the glory. This assignment is a shoo-in for the Pulitzer. And Peter says, you want it so badly? Then you go. And look at this here of Jonah. That's gratitude for you. I make the boy a star. He turns on me. And Robbie says, Jonah, it is dangerous. And Jonah says, so is riding the subway. And Peter says, well, I might change my mind. And Jonah says, what'll it take? Money. And Jonah says, never. And Robbie says, he's got you over a barrel. And he's smoking here. And so is Jonah. Some help you are, turncoat. Peter has college expenses, medical bills for his Aunt May. All right, all right. Work out the sordid details with Parker, Robbie. But I want my money's worth, Parker. If you don't come back with a prize-winning story, don't bother coming back at all. So, and then real quick, I wanted to just show you the splash page is sort of well, I mean, it's technically not a splash page, but you see here that the panel, the underground panel here, is covering the whole part here with it. So that's pretty cool here. So about 100 hours later, Peter Parker is beginning to wonder who suckered who in Jonah's office. So here comes the Navy's helicopters going into the Savage Land. And we've got, he doesn't look very happy to be there. Angel is sleeping, and of course we got Tanya here. And so they're landing in there, and we're gonna get a little bit of exposition here from everybody. And Peter thinks things sure have changed since the last since I was here last. Who knows? Maybe this trip will be dull and boring and peaceful. I should be so lucky. And then Angel goes, funny, last time I came to the Savage Land, I was chasing Carl Lycos. I almost died. But the X-Men's arch enemy, Magneto, saved my life for reasons of his own. That was in X-Men's 63 and 64. And then we get her, Tanya here. I pray I'm doing the right thing. The odds against our finding Carl are as huge as the Savage Land itself, but I have to try, she says. And then suddenly, here comes a Pteranodon. And so, pterosaur, as they're called sometimes. But I grew up watching Transformers, so I call them Pteranodons here. Again, screen tones being applied here, different colorings. My goodness, Barry Windsor-Smith and Michael Golden are probably two of the best colorists, but unfortunately they don't do this all the time. Unfortunately, this Pteranodon is probably not going to survive after that hit. And Tanya gets taken out. Everybody's going to get out, and Angel's going to catch her. Great panel here. And so, and the chopper gets destroyed. The chopper. Get to the chopper! If you've ever watched Predator. Then you got the other two here. Angel, did Peter Parker get out? Did he have a shoot? Asked Tanya. I don't know. I didn't see. Everything happened so fast. And in this blasted mist, I haven't a prayer spotting him. And poor Peter would have gotten killed. Man, oh man. Jonah Jameson puts him in just the most predicament situations. Ever wonder if Peter Parker wasn't Spider-Man, how many times he'd be dead? So he goes, so much for my dull, boring, peaceful trip. Boy, am I glad I wore my web shooters under my clothes after a welcome like this, though. I wonder what's waiting for us in the ground. So he makes himself his own parachute there. And so Peter's coming through, and he continues to think here. As soon as I get back to New York, I'm going to punch Jameson right in the nose for making me an offer I couldn't refuse. Then I'm going to punch myself in the nose for accepting it. Hiya, folks. Long time no see. And Angel says, Parker, you're all right. You see any sign of the pilots? I've been searching for them, but so far it's zilch. And again, love these types of panels here. They landed way up in the cliff near the top. They looked okay. They waved their radio as I floated by. They're probably calling for help right now. And Angel says, the Navy has an emergency station at the far side of the mountains. I think I should fly us out to it. And Candy says, leave now? No. And, sorry, Tanya, not Candy. And Angel says, Tanya, we've got no supplies. If we stay here, we're asking for trouble. And Peter says, we've come this far, Angel. The last thing we can do is have, the least we can do is have a look around here. So, she says, thanks for wrecking me up, Peter. I wasn't really, but it'll be dark soon. And in this neighborhood, it gets real dark real fast. I figure we'll be better off finding shelter for the night before leaving first thing in the morning. In the meantime, I guess there isn't much harm in some sightseeing. As I recall, these highlands are pretty barren. Most of the nasty beasties and people live lower in the jungle. And then here comes Angel and says, Peter, Tanya, I found something. Follow me, he says. So, and here we have, if you remember, which I have covered, where the X-Men were taken prisoners by Magneto. The second time the new X-Men fought him, I have a playlist. I'm trying to think of where it was. But anyway, this is that station where I think they fought Garrick. Oh, right here. X-Men 113 through 116 here. So, and Angel says, one thing about the X-Men, you can generally tell where they've been. It's strangely beautiful and so huge. And Peter says, we could wander through that place for years and still only see a fraction of it. So, I better get some pictures. This city's worth a story in itself. And then the spider sense goes off here. And of course, my spider sense is tingling. I want to comment on the colors again. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Magenta, red, pink, a little orange here, yellow. Oh my goodness gracious. Absolutely beautiful. And suddenly we got all these warriors here that are showing up here. And Angel says, I recognize these creeps from the X-Men's description. They served Garrick and his high priestess Saladane. I better get airborne. But not gonna work, as they have some pteranodons here. Die, Outlander, as he tries to hit him. And oh, they have an Air Force too. Again, love the coloring, the little greenish yellow, the green here. So, suddenly he doesn't feel very good here. You can say, you hear what? Says here, suddenly Angel's world turns topsy-turvy inside his head. The senses he depends on for survival go haywire all at once. And he's like, I don't understand. Everything's spinning, lost balance. And so the guy then hits him. And here you see some nets where they're going to end up catching him here. And you see Peter kind of pulling his own weight. And he pushes that lady so that he can kind of do Spider-Man things, because he didn't want her around here. And so now that she's gone, boom, and you can see the Spider-Man, he changes into his costume. But he's going to go get Tanya, but the same thing here is happening. And he can't see, but he gets hit, but he uses his spider webs. And this guy, he's a mutant who happens to be blind as well, kind of like Daredevil, but Daredevil got his stuff through a radioactive accident. This guy is a mutant. So and then this one is Barbarous, who of course has 4 arms, and he just is very strong here. And so here comes Tanya, and all of a sudden she's hoping Kazar is able to rescue them or avenge them. And suddenly she says, what's that sound? You can see here. And here we have, of course, a T-Rex. And so we're now in another place here. And Spider-Man's starting to wake up. These are like to show that he's dazed. Again, look at the ticks here. This is such an Image Comics thing. And again, if you remember the year in 1981, Image is still about 12 years away. I think in 92 is when they launched. So he's like, oh, anybody got an aspirin? I got such a headache you wouldn't believe. And so here we have Brainchild. So he says, you're awake. Incredible. Barbara's beating could have crushed a dozen ordinary men. Welcome, human, to our citadel of our creator Magneto. I am called Brainchild. I am master here. Blind Gaza and Forearm Barbarous you have already met. My emerald skilled comrade is Amphibious. The young lady Vertigo. We are mutants, of course. And so here we have Barbarous, Gaza, Vertigo, Amphibious, and Brainchild. And so Spider-Man saying how he can't break free at this time. He doesn't have his strength back. He says, "Where am I and who are you?" And so oh, and I guess how are we supposed to know read this way first and then here? I guess this part, I'm sorry. I was supposed to read this part first and then this part, but so Brainchild again, I love the magenta being used here. Absolutely beautiful. And so Brainchild continues, soon with your help and the angels, we will be rulers of the Savage Land. This arcane device was used by Magneto to evolve us from simple swamp savages into our present superpowered incarnations. When Angel and his fellow X-Men defeated Magneto, this genetic transformer was destroyed. We have since repaired it and added some interesting modifications. Now, in addition to performing its original function, it can also devolve any living being to its primordial beginnings. We had originally planned to test it on Kazar, but now that you and Angel are here, the honor will be yours. So, and Spider-Man says, I think this is my cue. Sorry, Big Brain, but flawed though I may be, I like myself the way I am. And she's like, Vertigo, deal with him. Of course, this is Vertigo who will join the Marauders. So, no, trying to resist, but can't. And so, here we go. And they're going to use that thing on Spider-Man. And a great use of my goodness, screen tones here. And it is, nothing's happening here, and suddenly we get darkness to be continued. So before we leave, again, look at the marks here. Look at the ticks. If this doesn't scream Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane, I don't know what does. So Marvel Fanfare #1, Chris Claremont, Michael Golden from 1981. Like and subscribe, and I do thank you for listening. Goodbye.